Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to start into chapter 10, and it has to do with circles. So first we want to talk about what a circle is. And so we define a circle as a set of all the points in some plane, right? So if we're talking about a plane, we're talking about like a surface. So you could think about laying a bunch of marbles, a bunch of points down on your floor, or a lot of different other ways. So then all these points are equidistant from a specific point, and that specific point is our center. So if we look at this example, let's say we make this center dot. Well, if we make this center dot our center, right? So this is our center. And then we want to go through and make a bunch of other dots that are all the same distance from that center dot, right? So let's see if I can do this. Let's make this bigger. Right, so they're all the same distance from that specific dot. So no matter what direction you're going out, it's not going to be perfect. Sorry. We get this circle shape. And if I could draw it perfectly, we get a nice perfect circle. But that is our definition of our circle, right? A set of all points that are equidistant from the point. And in this case, we call that middle exact center our center. All right, let's talk about how we name circles. So first of all, we see this circle here. It's got center, right? So that center is at center A, right? And so whatever our center is called is how we name the circle. So if this would be circle A, right? So not too bad, but you name your circle after its center point. We're going to talk about some different pieces of our circle. Some of this should be review. Some might be a little more of a refresher. Some might be new stuff. So if we look here, first we're going to talk about our radius. So our radius is the distance from our center point to anywhere on our circle. So let's say we go that way, right? We could also say, let's go from here up. So it's half the distance across the circle because we're going from the center to any of our edges. Okay, so that's our radius. It's half of our distance across the circle. Next, we have our diameter. Our diameter is the distance across a circle that has to go through our center point. Right, so we went from one side of our circle to the other and we crossed through our center point. So that is our diameter, right? We could go any direction as long as we cross through the center. So we've got multiple different diameters, but they should all still be the same length. The reason we're talking about radius and diameter together here is that the radius is equal to 1/2 our diameter. And with that being said as well, our diameter is equal to 2 times our radius. All right, so they're very connected and pretty darn similar. Next, we're going to move on. I guess the last thing we're going to talk about today is our circumference. So our circumference is the distance around the circle. So if we look at this circle here, our circumference is how far it takes us to go all the way around our circle and get back to our starting point. And so in this case, we're looking at circle A, and we want to know the distance around circle A. So it's like the outside. Right? So if you need to write yourself, it's like the outside distance of a circle. I believe next week, we'll talk about the inside, our area, but today we're just going to talk about our circumference. Okay, so let's kind of look at an example, right? Being able to recognize each different part. And if you haven't completely gotten the previous couple examples or the previous definitions and details, make sure you pause and replay before you look through this next example that we're going to go through, but otherwise we're going to start with this example. So first we want to determine what each of the following are. So if we look at number one says P. So we're looking solely at P. And so P is a point and it is in the middle of our circle. So in this case, C is our center. Okay, let's move on. Then we have DP, right? So DP is the segment that goes from point D to point P. And we got to think, okay, well, what's that segment doing? It's going from the center out to the edge of our circle. So if we look back at our definitions, the thing that DP would be is a radius. Okay, so next we want to look at what DE is. So we look DE. DE goes through point P, but it's from one side of the circle to the other. So DE is our diameter. Lastly, we want to figure out what would we name this circle and get rid of this stuff so we can look back at this circle. And previously we said that you name your circle by the center point. So if we want to name this circle, we would name this circle P. Right, so not too bad. Whatever your center point is how you name your circle. So those are the four main things we're going to talk about. We didn't talk about circumference in this example, but we're talking about the center, the radius, the diameter, and how you name a circle. So lastly here, our last question, if a circle, or if the circle above, right, this circle above, we're talking about circle P, if that circle has DE, right, so from D all the way to E is 9 inches. We want to know what the length of PE is. And so if we think back, up here we said DE is our diameter, and DP is our radius. That means that PE is also a radius. And so we said somehow our radius is connected to our diameter, and that is that the diameter is equal to 1/2 the radius, or, take that back, sorry. The diameter is 2 times our radius. I mixed those ones up. Or that we have the radius is equal to 1/2 our diameter. And so in this case, we're trying to find out our radius, right? We want to find PE. And so we just have to go 1/2 our diameter, 9. And so if you think to yourself, what's half of 9? 4.5. And we want to make sure we include our units. So up here we have our units of inches. So we get 4.5 inches. And right now that's as difficult as we'll get, being able to name and classify different pieces of a circle, as well as connecting our diameter and our radius.